Hello, brothers and sisters. Again, I'm going to give a brief message. This comes to the Rapture Naysayers. And people who believe the rapture doesn't happen often neglect the Old Testament passages that have yet to be fulfilled. These are in Isaiah, they're in Ezekiel, they're in Jeremiah. We have not seen a third temple. We have not seen the valley of dry bones. We have not seen the law written on man's heart. At least I haven't seen it in the Christian church. So trying to say that Jeremiah 31 to 34 has taken place is not true. But what I've seen is replacement theology taking control. And what you see is people base things off of history. So what has the church believed for whatever period of time? But the book of Daniel has been sealed and the book of Revelation was sealed until such time it could be understood. And we're pretty much at that time frame. So I'd sit back and tell you, if you don't believe in the rapture, read Paul and read 1st and 2nd Thessalonians, and you'll get an understanding. There is a great multitude that's going to be taken. This is specified in Revelation 7, and it's 14 through 17. And a great multitude stood before God, a number that couldn't be counted. And they will worship God in his temple day and night. And forever they will be with the Lamb at the center of the throne. And that Lamb is God. And the person who leads us there is Jesus. But there is no point from that scripture where we come back and we serve in the millennial reign. The millennial reign is the 144,000 sealed Jews, and they were from 12 tribes of Israel. And this fulfills the Old Testament promises that Ezekiel, Jeremiah, Isaiah had pointed to. We're not subject to it. But at the same standpoint, we're not promised that either. So don't build yourself in false promises. Build yourself in real promises, right promises, the ones that Christ identified. And I'll go back and say to anyone who's a naysayer of the rapture is in Revelation 3:10, Jesus promised us that he would keep us from the hour of trial, the time of great tribulation. We've been facing great tribulation from the time that Jesus died until now. But the time of great tribulation will be that final week of Daniel, when the promises restored to Israel will occur. And you don't want to be on the wrong side of that equation whatsoever. So, whether you heed to a rapture doctrine or not, just recognize that the rapture doctrine is a relatively new doctrine, but it's not really a doctrine. It's kind of a promise from Paul. He will show us a mystery, and it was specified in Thessalonians, 1st and 2nd Thessalonians. And the man of lawlessness will eventually be revealed, and he will regard neither women nor the God of his forefathers, but will regard himself as God in God's temple. And the problem is when we break from the Old Testament and we don't realize that Daniel had told us what's going to happen, Ezekiel told us what's going to happen, Jeremiah told us what's going to happen, and he told us from a Jewish perspective. The Jews are eventually going to get back, and the Jewish remnant, 144,000, will be the remnant of the millennial kingdom. It's probably not going to be Christians. And honestly, that warms my heart, scares the shit out of me at the same time. But I don't want you guys to be thinking, if I read scripture, I have to reject a rapture philosophy because the rapture philosophy doesn't necessarily follow Matthew 24. Well, it technically does. And it technically follows the Old Testament prophets, and it technically follows Paul's teachings. And you have to remember that you can't just listen to what man tells you. You have to listen to what the Spirit tells you. And read those passages. I've broken it out for you. Read that. And then just ask the Spirit for opening your heart and your mind to understand, because the rapture is not a hard, far-fetched philosophy. Especially if you remember that Jesus said, "Judge not lest you be judged." And if you hold to a no-judgment philosophy and you follow the teachings of Christ, you wouldn't really be subject to judgment either. So, with that, brothers and sisters, just keep your eyes open, read your scriptures, love your God with all your heart, love your brother more than yourself, and just continue to serve as Christ served. Because his blood is thicker than anything we know. It atoned for a lot more. And to say that Christ's blood isn't enough to atone for me, it denies all the promises of Christ's teachings and God's prophecies in the Old Testament. And I'll never deny that, because Christ is God's Son. And I love him with all my heart. And you should love him with all your heart. And with that, I tell you, God bless.